we're back. It's the Tuesday Counseling Podcast, and we have a special guest today who's not a person, but it's Aaron's dog. His name is Timmy.
This is Timothy Chalamet.
Timothy Chalamet.
Oh.
Does he have a middle name, last name, or is it just Timothy Chalamet?
It's just Timothy Chalamet.
Oh,
AKA Timmy, AKA Little Timmy Tim. Come on, bud.
wow.
Come on.
He's so handsome.
Oh.
Ooh. Oh my God. Yeah, if you're not watching this episode, you're missing out. Because this is the cutest dog ever, ever, ever.
Oh, he wants to go. Okay, say bye.
Oh.
Bye, Tim.
I was like, I've done
Hi,
what I can
Timmy.
do.
Okay. I had a dream about Timothy Chalamet last night. That happens to me once every
Oh.
month, probably. I have a dream about Timothy Chalamet.
What was your dream
Actually, I think
about?
y'all might have been there.
Oh.
It was like this weird, like family reunion situation. You know, and your friend's like, I have to tell you about this dream. And you're like, I don't care. But I'm always the friend that's like, I have to tell you anyway. It
Care.
was like a family reunion situation. And I do think y'all were there, but Timothy, we had like cast him to like be part of it. There were
Okay.
no cameras. He was just like there and he had like lines it was so weird. Um, and we talked about David Lynch. I'm remembering in our dream, we talked about like a lot of different things. Anyway, I'm not kidding. That probably happens to me once a month, and it's not about any other celebrity. It's just about him.
Hmm.
So if anyone feels open to psychoanalyze that, you can, and we also don't have to do that. But who knows? Anyway,
You know
we're
who
back.
looks similar to Timothy Chalamet? Who resembles his features?
My husband,
Madeline's husband.
my
Maybe you got
spouse, my
them
partner.
confused. It was
Uh,
just Rhett there
uh,
reading lines. Not just,
maybe it
but
was
it
just him.
was Rhett.
No, when I first met Rhett too, he looked just like him. Well, Timothy of like 20, like Call Me by Your Name era,
Mm-hmm.
Timothy Chalamet. Rhett looked just like him when we met, and I said, I love
I found him.
him. Yeah, I found him. I did it. So if Timothy ever gets a buzz cut and any of that stuff, he would catch up to where Rhett is right now. But regardless, um, it's good to be back. It's been a week, but man, what a week we've had, girls.
It
We've
has
all been
been a
busy.
week, a long week.
It's been a long week. What have we been up to?
I moved and I was in a wedding this weekend.
You've done it all.
I have done it. It was a crazy week. Crazy week.
Mhm.
Y'all went to EMDR training.
We did. We did a 6-day work week.
Yeah, we did. We worked Monday through Saturday of last week. Um, Avery and I went to a really cool training. EMDR, I guess maybe that's where we started. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's pretty trendy. I feel like a lot of people, especially if you're listening to this podcast, might already know what that is, but it's definitely fallen more into um, maybe like a household name in the last
Yeah.
10 years, maybe.
Yeah, we were talking to someone the other day. I forget who it was. Maybe it was Liz, but it was like
Mhm.
EMDR is kind of like the new CBT, it seems.
Yeah, it's really popular. And it's funny because I was telling some of my clients, like, hey, I'll be out for a few days next week, blah, 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 doing EMDR training. And half of them were like, oh my God, slay, love that. Like they knew exactly what it was. And then half of them were
Really?
like, okay, like what is that? Why would you expect me to know what that is? Like, kind of thing. Um, so you never really know, I guess. But it was quite a time. I guess, Avery, do you want to explain like what we were up to this weekend?
Yeah. So we did, it's a two part training. So we did part one. And so really what we spent time doing is learning kind of the background of EMDR. And a little bit of I don't know, the basics is the right word, but like we learned the protocol for EMDR. it seems like there's a lot more that we'll be learning week 2. But we learned complex, we learned the bilateral stimulation, like why it works, and the different phases of it. And so I'm still
Mhm.
processing a few days later all of the information, but I'm excited to start using it with my clients.
Yeah, it was a really cool process. I mean, we kind of got the inside friends and family kind of deal. Sorry, my neighbor is pulling into our driveway. Hey, Jay. Um, because Aaron and Avery and I, you may know, worked at the same counseling practice when we were all in grad school. And if you're a Dallas local, it is the Center for Integrative Counseling and Psychology. T. Can I say that? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I work now. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that's where Avery is now. So when we worked there, we kind of got familiar with the people that worked there, and they offer this EMDR training. Um, and it's led by Vanessa Vaughter. If you're, again, Dallas local, it was a really great training. And we learned a lot. But basically, like Avery said, it's a kind of like 3-day intensive, 9 to 5, Thursday through Saturday. You're there, you're practicing, you're learning, and then you break for like a month. But within that month, you're doing consultation calls with the trainers and consultants and stuff, alongside like practicing it with your clients. And then you go back for your second set of like 3 days, and then you're trained. And so um, it it was pretty intense. It was intense.
Because
It
not
was an
only,
intensive. It was an
yeah,
It
intense.
was an intensive.
yeah,
No
because not only do
kidding.
you learn about it, but you practice it on each other during the
Yeah.
training. So not only are you the therapist for EMDR, but you're also the client. So you get a little bit of an understanding of what it's like. Um,
Yeah.
but that's a lot to do in one day.
Yeah. Well, I
Ooh.
remember when we were talking to Vanessa about getting trained and stuff like that. And she was like, you get really close with the people that you get trained with
Yeah.
because you are not only learning how to do EMDR from the therapist side, but you are practicing it and like experiencing it as the client as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. It was also a very intimate group that we had. Usually, Vanessa said there's like 10, 15 people there. And we had four, including Avery and I. So it was me and Avery, two other therapists, and we got to know each other really well um, by the end of the third day, for sure. But luckily, thank God, Avery, we got to practice with each other every time, just by luck. Like we didn't choose
We
it, but
drew.
it just worked out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we drew cards, so it was fair.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it felt really new. I remember giving that feedback of like,
Mhm.
when you're first starting to see clients and you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing, but when you get in the room and you actually try it with someone, it's like, oh, it feels really wobbly and kind
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
it feels new. And that sitting there with Avery doing literally like, I said, go with this. And I'm like, this is weird. And like, it felt so new and shaky, and that's okay. Um, but yeah, it was really cool. It was cool to see it as a client. It was cool to get to practice it as a therapist. Um, cool to learn more about what works. Yeah.
I know I might be making this up, but I feel like whenever we worked there, I would talk to Vanessa about EMDR stuff sometimes. And she would say that like you can't like fake EMDR. So like you have to use your own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when y'all are like doing the training, that's a lot to know that like because I feel like in grad school, they always told us that we to use our own stuff, but I think from y'all that like there were kind of limits on when you were like starting your practicum or pre-practicum when you were
Oh,
practicing with your cohort, there were kind of guidelines around like what you did and didn't say. And so I think EMDR is just very vulnerable because she
Yeah.
always says like it only you can't fake it. It only works if you use like your real life stuff. And so
yeah.
Yeah. And I think the hard part of that is sometimes you don't know what's going to come up. And I think like in grad school, even with the guidelines, like you get to decide like, okay, this is something I want to share, or maybe this is something I sugarcoat
Yeah.
a little bit because I don't want other people in my class to know. And with EMDR,
Right.
it's like not like that. That sure, you can pick what topic you want to discuss, but then once you go back and are actually doing the protocol, you don't necessarily know what's
Mhm.
going to come up. And so it is really vulnerable and a little bit intimidating, like as a client.
Yeah.
It's so good
Well,
to know
because
that too. Like having done it as the client
yeah,
to know, like as you become a clinician that starts practicing EMDR, you have the
yeah.
experience of knowing like, yeah, this shit is a little intimidating. And like
Hmm.
really having that experience and that conversation with your client as you're starting.
Yeah.
I would say having a strong rapport with your client is so important if you're
Oh
doing
my
this
God.
protocol.
Yeah. No, it would have to be. I'm realizing also for the people who maybe don't know what we're talking about, like maybe they've heard of EMDR, maybe they haven't. Aside from like the absolute basic definition, Avery, do you feel brave? I'm happy to explain it if you don't
Oh,
want to.
I love the way that you explained it. You explain
Okay. So this is actually something we had to practice was
it.
giving our like elevator pitch. If you don't know what it is as a client, how am I going to explain it in a way that's not like going to bore you to tears? Basically, um, we go through our lives and we experience things that kind of go through. I almost imagine it as like this little like trash chute of information. We process it from like this is happening and storing it into like our long-term memory. And so everything follows that same channel. And sometimes it just flows and there's no interruption, or sometimes it gets kind of stuck in the chute and things build up and it doesn't totally process all the way and it gets stuck and it kind of jams up everything. And so, kind of what EMDR is almost taking that out of the chute, polishing it up, doing whatever you need to do, putting it back and letting it clear itself. And so, it's really interesting as a therapist to watch this happen in real time because we're processing something that maybe happened a really long time ago, but we're still able to like talk through it, but your brain is doing the processing by way of what we call bilateral stimulation, which is any kind of like left or right from the midline. So it could be like following someone's fingers left to right, or like butterfly tapping left, right, holding buzzers, like buzz, alternating hands. And we don't totally know why, but there's something about that stimulation that kind of some people think it mimics like REM sleep or like kind of theta wave type stuff, whatever it is, like something about being able to talk through that memory, do some sets of bilateral and trust that your brain will just kind of clear it on its own. It does. And it's really weird to watch it in real time and really cool to watch it in real time. But um, that's like a super bare bones explanation of it. But it's basically just like letting your brain do the work and we just kind of stay out of the way, but we're kind of moderating it and letting you do it. Does that feel like, I mean, you'll both understand what EMDR is. Does that
Yeah,
feel,
that was great.
Yeah.
thank you, Vanessa, if you're
She
listening.
would. Yeah, she'd be proud.
Thank
A
you.
plus
I
student.
hope so. Oh, I hope so.
Yesterday.
Um, but so yeah, we got to practice on each other, um, which something that we learn is like you kind of measure out these memories in terms of like SUDs, which are subjective units of distress.
Mm-hmm.
I think she told us, Avery, like if it's something like 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, if it's like a 7 or below, it's fair game. Like we can do that here. If it's anything above
Yeah.
that, maybe not here. Maybe with like a trained therapist for EMDR. But it was really funny to like get into the process of like actually trying to process it through. Like I'll give an example. So when Avery was doing mine, you kind of start with like, what do you want to work on? And you kind of pick a topic or like a feeling or a memory or something. You kind of float back. It's like, okay, when can you remember another time that you felt this way? Um, Again, I'm in training, so if I'm already saying it wrong, don't be mad. Okay. Um, and basically, you kind of follow some kind of like negative cognition. So for me, I was processing stories that had the same theme of like the phrase, I am powerless. That was my negative cognition, with the goal of then being able to believe a positive cognition, which is like, I am capable or competent or whatever it is. And it was really funny because I don't remember. Oh, I started with a memory in like seventh grade, and Avery tried to like float me back to the earliest memory. And I was like, oh, I know the first time I felt that way. And I was expecting it to have a lot more like emotional charge and like stuff that we could process, and it just didn't. Like I launched into this story of how I witnessed like an this is a true story. I witnessed an armed robbery at the Hollywood Video in kindergarten. Do you remember where that was, Aaron? It was on
Wait,
what,
wait,
like
wait. The
Skillman and
Hollywood Video in what? Oh, in
Which
kindergarten.
was a
in
block.
I
I
was in
thought you were saying
kindergarten.
a neighborhood, and I was like, no, I don't know what
No,
that neighborhood is.
it was on Skillman. It was Skillman and Abrams.
Gilman and
If you're
Abrams.
in Dallas,
Hmm.
you may remember the
Are
early
you sure it
2000s.
wasn't? I think it became a Blockbuster after.
It probably did. But I was there because they had my two favorite VHSs. They had Rainbow Bright and they had Totally Spies on VHS. I loved them both and I would frequent them. Um, and so I went with my mom and we were like kind of processing through this memory. I'm expecting to like feel something or like be able to kind of relive what that felt like to be there. And I'm kind of just like, yeah,
Yeah.
this happened. I'm feeling this way. We're processing. And I'm kind of like, I feel nothing towards that memory. And it was cool to be able to realize, like, okay, just because that's the earliest time you felt that way doesn't mean that it was the worst time or there's anything there to process.
Yeah.
The way we kind of conceptualize that is like, if that has followed the chute, like that already cleared. Like I'm good there. That's not stuck. But it was funny to like get to tell these stories. I don't know if Avery had heard that story, but
Uh, well, and going into it, we had kind of throughout the weekend been like, well, what are we going to talk about like outside of the training? So I was like, oh, like I kind of already have an idea of where she's going, and she goes back to this memory. And I'm thinking, well, this is not what I've
this
never
is
heard.
not what I thought.
Well,
Madeline
this
didn't
is
tell me she was
what
going
I
to say that.
and we hadn't talked about like all like what you'd go back to, but I feel like I know you very well, and I was like, oh, whatever story
Yeah.
she floats back to, like I'll probably know. And then I was so caught off guard. I was like, I had no idea you witnessed an armed robbery. That feels like something that would have come up like throughout the time that I
No,
knew you, but
you would
maybe
think
because
that
it's
would have
not
been
emotionally
traumatic.
charged.
Yeah.
Like it
It
just
wasn't.
never came up.
I had processed it.
Yeah,
Apparently, my brain had no issue like clearing that
no.
memory, and like it sits in long term with no real like distress or cognitive, distortion.
Well, and we kept
Um,
trying to get, and something that you do in EMDR is like, okay, let's go back to the senses, right? Of like, we're like trying to bring her back
yeah,
to that moment. And it still was like not going anywhere. And I'm sitting there, like, this is the first time I'm doing EMDR. Like, okay, well, what do you do now? If you can't get,
clearly there's nothing here.
yeah, like, we're going to have to
Well,
move
so
on.
we realized, yeah, if we're looking for a memory that's like has some kind of distress, that's the point. That would have had a 0 out of
Uh-huh.
whatever 10. There's nothing to process. Like we just moved on.
Yeah.
But we
So,
then found a different one. Yeah.
what did y'all have any conversations at all about? Like, I feel like I have myself as a client experiences and lots of clients in my very short-lived time as a therapist that have been like, I don't really have a lot of memories of like my childhood, or I don't remember my childhood, or and thinking about um trying to go back to like, okay, well, when is like the first time that you remember experiencing this? Did y'all have any conversations at all about like what that looks like if you have a client that's like, literally, I don't know?
I felt like that client. I was like, I don't know. I don't remember.
Because there's part of me that wonders if like EMDR and something about kind of the neurological, biological part of it all is like able to kind of pass through, um, I guess, like different barriers that like talk therapy kind of deals with.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so there's part of me that wonders if like memories will naturally arise that if you were just in talk therapy, you were like, oh, like, no, like, I don't remember.
Hmm.
Um, or if there's like anything
Yeah.
specifically that like any protocol that you go through, if you feel like you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Madeline, correct me if I'm wrong here, but what we talked about is that it doesn't have to be such a vivid memory, but can you think of an experience where you felt that way, or what does that feel like for you? And going, I think you can go that direction too. And then, like, those memories sometimes come up. I don't think there's a one approach that every single time it works, but going based off like how it feels in your body internally. And then when you go into the bilateral stimulation and like what comes up for you, I think it is possible that memories would come up. I think it's also possible that they wouldn't. And so, Madeline, let me know if I
Mhm.
explained that right,
That
or
sounds good to me.
that's what I
Well,
remember
and
hearing.
Avery, when you were doing it as a client, were you able to kind of remember things that you're like, oh my God, I hadn't thought about that? Or like I could see a detail in my head that I had forgotten when you were kind of processing your own stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. I think when
I
you
could
put
too.
it in it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. And then sometimes you're like, I remember sitting there and being like, well, did I just make that up? Like, I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but that's the way that my brain
Yeah,
remembers what happened.
It kind of
right.
reminds me of when you're practicing IFS with clients. And I mean, when I was a client, I would always have that conversation almost in my head of like, okay, like I'm trying to be really mindful of making sure that like I'm not, my protective parts are not stepping in and responding.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Like that
Hmm.
I'm really checked in and mindful and aware of, like this part specifically where it's showing up in my
Yeah.
body and just kind of allowing it to naturally flow instead of, and I would like say things to my therapist and I would be like, what? And then I would be like, did I
Mhm.
make that up? Or like just kind of that weird feeling. I think the tension between like somatic, especially if you have
Yeah,
intellectualizing parts.
totally. Totally. I I cannot resonate with that any more powerfully. Like sitting there, I was like, I can do this. Like it's just like tapping into your body and just like seeing what comes up. No, 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 no. Because I had an intellectualizer part and a part who was very cerebral and cognitive, and she likes to use her words to explain things.
Yeah.
But she was like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, I can't talk. And I would want to say something, and Vanessa or like Air or Avery are both kind of sitting there being you can't let them just like talk and talk about this memory. You need to find it and go with it and keep processing. Like, don't
Yeah.
in between sets, like just yap, which I wanted to. I wanted to explain.
So,
Yeah.
no, you go, Ave.
Well, I was saying that was the hardest part as a client, and that's only done talk therapy. I wanted to explain why, like, especially
Yeah.
like I would be like, pick one word to use. And that was really, and that's not the protocol. That was just, I was thinking if I say more than one word, I will be going on for like 5 to 10 minutes. And so that felt hard. But as a therapist, who's only done talk therapy, that felt really hard. When Madeline would say something, I would
Hmm.
want to be like, well, tell me more. Like, it makes sense that you feel that way. Of course, that's coming up. Right?
Yeah.
Like, how you would in talk therapy. And like, that is not what you're supposed to do in EMDR. It felt
Right.
so challenging on both ends, to not hear her out or to not feel heard out. I mean, we obviously
Hmm.
processed through after, but in the moment,
So, as the therapist, I feel like every time I think about EMDR, all I hear is like, go with that.
mhm.
How do you decide, like Madeline or Avery as the client, like you're saying, or I'm like reciting a memory or something as a client? Like, at what point is it literally just your intuition, or are there guidelines for like you hear something and you're like, okay, go with that?
That's what's so funny. And this may depend on the provider. Like the way that we were trained this weekend was like, you find the thing, or you're even just like, what was the last thing you noticed? State it, go with that. And like, don't let them yip yap about what they're thinking.
Oh, okay.
I kind of am of and I don't know how much this can vary within providers. I'll need to kind of figure that out as I practice. But like, I think that and probably all of us have a really strong part of us that are very like wanting to hear and wanting to like allow the space. It's their therapy. That's kind of where I get tripped up because I'm like, how could I pretend to know what you need better than you? Like, you're the one telling me your story. Like, follow it for a second. Because I think there's a middle ground. I don't think that I want to cut people off as quickly, maybe as our trainer is like describing that she does in her own practice. That works for her. I'm thinking that maybe I am still looking to find my own balance. But I think you could ask that question to a lot of different providers, Erin, and you might get a few different answers.
Okay. Okay. I think I understand though. Like you just are trying to find the thing. And
Yeah, and it's
even if it's not necessarily like the thing or the right thing, it's like it's a thing. So we're gonna follow it for a second and see what we find.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Avery would do a set and she'd be like, "What do you notice?" And I'm like, "Nothing." She goes, "Great, go with that." Like that's enough to go with.
Yeah.
Like they taught us even like if someone were to like come out of a set and be like, "I feel sad." As a therapist in that room, you wouldn't say, "You feel sad." You would just say, "Go with that." Like you don't even reflect it.
Interesting.
No reflection. And that's
Yeah.
what it feels so
Yeah. Like,
abnormal and like so against what normally you do, right? Of like reflecting that is
yeah.
let's sit with that for a second. We're not sitting with it. Like we're moving on to the next set.
Uh-huh. But I think
Wild.
to kind of, because I do think there is a potential to merge IFS and EMDR. And the reason that I notice that in myself is like parts of me that are maybe really vigilant of like being evaluated almost. When I say that, I mean like sitting there being watched by Avery and this trainer, like I'm sitting there and I'm processing and I'm like, I feel like I'm having to perform this. I don't even know if I'm really feeling this or if I'm just like trying to feel something. Like it felt like there was someone blocking me almost. And I kind of recognized that internally as maybe a part of me that was trying to keep me safe
Yeah.
from doing that processing or sounding stupid or whatever it
Mhm.
was. I feel like, and I don't know this for sure, but I feel like there's an opportunity to explore our protective parts beforehand and be curious about who we think might pop up for us in processing, who might be less enthusiastic about us processing through our stuff. Get to know them ahead of time, answer their questions ahead of time, kind of assuage them so that they're not popping up in processing, being like, we are not doing that. Does that make sense? That's kind
Yeah.
of an abstract way to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about EMDR yet. Um, but
Erin will be doing her training soon.
there's part of me that's almost like, can you not go with that? Like go with that and then
You
see
can. Hmm.
what happens after that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think you
I
get to
think totally.
process it after, but I think maybe the intention, I don't know if I'm saying this right, is for them to not get too in their head, right? For it to be more natural. I think if you stopped in the middle and processed, it would get them out of the EMDR protocol space. And so that's what's challenging. But I think processing before and after, like my takeaway was like that is okay. But in the moment, like there is no space to process because that's gonna pull them
Yeah.
out of the EMDR process.
Ah, okay. I see. I see.
Right,
It's a
Madeline?
little
Did I
bit.
get that right?
I think so. I
Okay.
think so. I mean, had I said in between a set, like I'm noticing feeling self-conscious or something. I think Erin's point is saying like you could say go with that
Oh
and
yeah.
see what you notice.
Oh yes, Aaron. I think that's great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. But I think like really like like when I think of processing, I think like really getting into it. But yes, you
Yeah.
could definitely go with that.
It was so cool, Erin. I'm so excited for you to get your
No, it's gonna be so fun.
I really wish that I could do it with y'all.
I know.
I
We wish you could have
know.
done it with us too. It would have been fun.
I know. I mean, yeah. Loved the wedding that I was in.
Yeah.
Congrats
Oh,
to them. Love them so much. And also, I don't want to do EMDR training alone. That seems scary.
yeah.
Everyone's
You'll
so
make
nice
friends.
though. I mean, like it's all not that. Yeah, but I'm like it's all therapists who are in the same boat. So it felt
Hmm.
and we had a really small class too. So maybe that's why I'm like, oh, it didn't feel as vulnerable as I had expected it to.
I know. I'm like, the May training is going to have like 9 people. I'm going to be like,
Well, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And I felt, yeah, it was a weird balance of like being back in school,
Mhm.
like having to learn and sit there and like
Mhm.
take notes and answer
PowerPoint.
questions, PowerPoints, answering questions wrong, which me and Avery both did.
Yeah, and it's fine. We
And
all
it's
do
fine.
it sometimes.
We're learning. But yeah, to be a student of something in such like a concentrated way
Yeah,
was really new. Or just hadn't done it in a while.
yeah,
Well, and also, I, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me then if more like protective parts of you that want to perform show up because like you're in a very educational setting,
yeah,
which is where
Totally.
like I feel like a lot of those parts show up is like I need to perform and prove to you that I'm smart so that I can get validation from you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. It was just the funniest little experience. And now Avery and I are kind of sent off back into the world and be like, okay, go practice. And we're like, "Ah, okay, I'll
Crazy.
try." Yeah. So if you're listening and you're our clients and we see you this week, it's going to be fine. It's going to be great.
yeah.
It's going to be fine. We're just trying something new. We're trained. We can do it,
Yeah,
but
we've done it.
we're new at this. But I think, yeah, I'm excited to get some more practice and to keep learning. It's something that I think the three of us will enjoy having as like a tool in our toolbox
Yeah,
Well,
throughout our careers.
I think the biggest thing for me, and maybe this is selfish motivation, but I think to have such good rapport with a client in talk therapy and to feel like we've hit a wall or we've hit a barrier and and then to say like you need this and I can't give
Mm,
it to you, you now have to go build rapport with another therapist
yeah.
feels so icky to me. So like to be able to have it if I ever do, hit a wall with a long-term client or something and like having that in my arsenal of things that I can use so that I don't have to like refer my clients out and say like, okay, bye, like good luck, I
yeah.
just
Yeah,
that's why I'm particularly excited about getting trained.
totally. I've got a lot of thoughts. I've got a lot of questions for when all three of us kind of have the foundational understanding that I'm excited to explore more of.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a good weekend, long weekend. Yesterday was our only day off. So now me and Avery are kind of like, well, and Erin, she's
Oh,
tired too.
I had a different kind
Um,
of weekend, but yeah, we're in the same
yeah,
boat.
yeah,
no days off. Yeah.
I
it,
did get to the
yeah.
venue at 7:45 in the morning.
You, ooh,
Yeah.
that's a long
It's
day.
like, well, it's just weddings. It's just
Yeah.
when you're a
It's just
bridesmaid.
weddings.
It's just that's
Yeah.
the vibe.
How
Um,
did the dress turn out?
I loved it. It was just
Good.
hilarious.
Okay.
Like, it's so funny to have like full beat and like hair curled and hair sprayed to the gods by 8, 9 in the morning. And then the
Hmm.
ceremony's at 6.
Hmm.
And I'm like,
Just like full glam at
full,
8 a.m.
really
kind of a
full
thing.
glam, 8 a.m. Just like, and then you like sit on the couch and like talk to your friends while everyone else is getting ready and fake eyelashes. Like, it's just crazy.
Wait, so did you get your hair and makeup done?
Uh huh.
Oh, wow. How
I've never done
I
that
fun.
for a
know.
wedding before.
No.
Wow.
I know, crazy. Well, I trust myself with my hair, but I don't know the first thing about makeup. And so I was like, please
Yeah,
work a miracle. Yeah.
totally.
It's just so funny to have like fake eyelashes on and like your hair is like crunchy from hairspray and you're sitting next to your friend and you're like, hey.
There you go. Yeah, morning. Good morning. Yeah, that's so funny. Well, good. I'm glad the dress worked out. Sounds like the spray tan did what it needed to do. All
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
things.
definitely.
Oh, cool. Next wedding that, no, that's not true. No, this is true. Next wedding I'll be in is Avery's.
Ah,
So exciting.
me too.
Erin, is that true for you?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Wait,
That
we'll have a
makes me
special episode. Yeah, behind the scenes
Avery wedding
episodes
prep.
on. Yeah, Avery wedding prep episode. That'd be fun.
I'm going to need it.
Oh my God. Yeah, we can like stream it live or something as we're all getting like our hair and makeup done.
Why not?
That would be so fun. That'd be so fun. Okay, well, I know we're low on time for today. We have two, I don't want to call them easy questions. They're important questions. I know that we can answer them quickly and pretty succinctly. Um, do we want to shift to question mode?
Do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you for asking. We got a lot of new questions this week, so I'm really excited to keep answering these. First one is thoughts on hanging degrees and certifications in your therapy offices. What degrees would you hang? Bachelor's, master's, etc. New social worker here. She says, I love the podcast. It feels like a break, but also keeps me in the therapist headspace on my way to work. Woo! This is the best news.
I am currently in the process of getting my degrees framed. I went to Framebridge.
Oh,
Highly recommend. Like, I had a lovely time. I never went
Bridge.
to. They were so kind. It's in Inwood Village.
Oh, okay.
Very cool. Cool vibes. I'm gonna hang them both in the office. I'm gonna hang my bachelor's. I'm gonna hang my master's. I'm not gonna hang my license because it's.
Oh, right.
I mean, I might put my license in like a cheap frame, but I'm probably gonna wait until I upgrade my license to get it like framed,
Hmm.
fully framed.
Hmm.
I do not know where my bachelor's degree is. I think it's at my parents' house somewhere. So I don't have that one hung. It was during COVID, so I think it came in the mail, and who knows what happened to that. But I did hang my master's degree and my license, but I just got a frame from Target and
Hmm.
put them in there. So it wasn't, and I can adjust it. But Erin, it sounds like you have very fancy frames.
Well, my mom has hers framed a very specific way, and I've been obsessed with them since I was little. And so I wanted to
Ooh.
do it the exact same way. And
I
so
love
You had like the matting and stuff that you wanted.
I
Frames?
don't know Matt
Intense.
floating frame.
Oh,
Yes. Like
no mat.
antique gold frame,
Ooh.
no mat, just glass. So it looks like your degree. There's like degree and then glass and then the frame.
And then frame.
Huh.
Obsessed.
Love that.
You'll have
Your
to.
mom had that while you were growing up. I feel like that's very avant-garde of
Very
her.
timeless of her. Yeah. She,
Wow.
yeah,
Love it. Not surprised knowing her. She's a trendy gal.
she really
Um,
try her best.
I, I've got them like rolled up in their original, whatever, like tubes that they mail to you. If you're watching this, I'm in my dining room. My dining room is also my office. Since I'm virtual only, I don't have like a physical brick and mortar office to hang degrees in. So I don't, but I love the idea. I think it looks very chic, looks very professional, looks very like law office vibes, which I think is so cool. And you worked really hard and you paid a lot of money for that piece of paper. So I think you should hang it if you
Yeah.
have the space to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Glad you're a listener who enjoys the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for asking.
Hang your
And
degrees. They deserve to be
hang
seen.
your degrees,
Very
babe.
hard for them. And also, if your
Yeah.
client ever says something like, you don't even know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
you can say, hey,
See that degree on the wall?
Says differently.
Okay, this is a fun question too. So this is our second one, our final one of what do you guys do if you see a client in public? Are you allowed to say hello? I saw my therapist in the grocery store the other week, but felt like I shouldn't approach him, and I felt awkward bringing it up in session.
oh, I talk
Love,
about it
love,
in my
love, love this
informed
question.
consent.
Mm.
Yeah.
I say, hey, if Dallas is a big city, but also, it can be kind of small. And with my clients that like are in other cities in Texas, I say it anyways because I'm like, I don't know, like I go to Austin a lot. I go to, I don't know. So I'm just like, if we ever were to see each other in public, like the ball is completely in your court. I always say, like, I would love to say hi to you. I would love to see you. But the last thing I want is like for me to like walk up to you if you're with someone else and be like, hey girl, like what's going on? And then like this person doesn't know that you're in therapy. You don't really care for them to know that you're in therapy either. And then all of a sudden, like I have now put you in a position where you either have to be dishonest or say, oh yeah, like that was my therapist and I really like didn't care for you to know that information, but now I have to tell you or I have to lie. And so I always say, like, the ball is completely in your court. You are always welcome to come say hi to me. It would make me so happy. I would love to say hi to you. But I will never approach you. And I don't want you to think that that is me saying that I don't want to talk to you. It is just, I want you to have control of the situation.
I second that.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Perfect.
I third that. I say that pretty much verbatim in every intake. And has that ever happened to me in real life? No, not yet. But I know that it will probably one day. And so I'd say it to everyone. Um, I always say, like, I'm gonna pretend that I've like never seen you in my entire life and like don't know who you are at all. And that's not to be rude. I explain it the exact same way as Erin does after that. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have to bring that up to your therapist if you don't want to, that you saw them in the grocery store, but you could.
I also think it's when it happens, it's happened to me before. And when it happens, it's almost from the therapist perspective, I would almost rather you bring it up and be like, okay, so that happened. How did that feel? You know, like if this were to happen
Hmm.
again, we obviously go to the same grocery store sometimes. So
Right.
if this were to happen again, would you like to say hi? You know, and just kind of like,
Hmm.
that's how it went that time. Did we like that? Did we not like that? Almost like game planning. Because I guess
Yeah.
there's a good chance that it happens again.
Yeah,
Hmm.
agreed.
I think it's important to, and they're trained to know how to handle that conversation and walk through that with you. But yeah, if you feel comfortable, I would say it is a good conversation to have and one that could yield some really important um just, moving forward things for you. So, okay. Thank you for asking. Um, we kind of switched up on you guys. We said that we were going to talk about breakups and grief and such this week, and then we got on this morning. We said, I don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about EMDR maybe, and then maybe we'll talk about that next time. But yeah, we will be back next week with another super fun episode, potentially about breakups and grief. Don't hold us to it. You don't know how the mood will strike us when the day rolls around. But yeah, any other thoughts, gals?
I don't think so.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, as always, thank you for listening, and we will see you back here next week. Bye.